It's Thursday night, it's late, and I almost forgot to record my Premier League predictions. Now, I didn't do a video on this last year, but I did predict Aston Villa to finish in 4th place. Now, there's absolutely zero evidence of that happening, but it did happen, and you're just going to have to take my word for it. So today, we're doing the Premier League predictions for 2024-2025, and I do like to pride myself in having some decent ball knowledge, so I'm expecting to come back to this at the end of next year. And this be some pretty decent results. So I think I'm going to go from the relegation first. I think that's probably the best way forward to do this. Now, again, as someone who has a full YouTube channel dedicated to fantasy football and the Premier League in general, I do want to be trying to get this as spot on as possible. So this is the idea. Relegation wise, as much as I would like to see something else happen, I think with the current situation of the Premier League and so many teams having so much money, I'm trying to remember who the other team is, Leicester, so many teams having so much money, I think the relegation, the teams who are coming up from the Championship are just going to struggle a lot more financially. I'm putting Ipswich in 20th because they really haven't made literally like any signings whatsoever. I think they've signed like Calvin Phillips, and then the rest are proper like Championship tier players. You've got Delap, Hutchison, Ben Johnson, who's maybe could be considered a Premier League player, but he wasn't a starter for West Ham, so I don't think Ipswich are going to do too well. I think Leicester are going to finish second bottom because of their deduction. I believe they're getting a deduction in points, so I think they'll still beat Ipswich, but I'm going to go for Ipswich. And then I'm going to go for Southampton because, again, a team that I don't think has made too many big moves, if that makes sense. Now, this could be a little bit of a controversial one. I'm going to stick Wolves in at 17th. Now, I've seen a couple of predictions already, and a few people seem to think that Wolves have one of the better teams in the Premier League. But honestly, I don't really see where that's coming from. I think they've lost one of their best players in Neto. And then when you're looking at their forward line, they've got Hwang Hee-chan and Strand Larsen. I don't know if that's really a forward line that can compete with the big spenders in the Premier League. So I think Wolves will struggle this year. Other than that, I think I'm going to go for Brentford. I think Brentford could struggle, depending on what happens with Ivan Toney. We could see what happens with that. They are a very solid team, Brentford, but yeah, I don't know if they're going to do too well. Then I'm going to stick Everton and I'm going to stick Nottingham Forest in here as well, because that's two teams who are very often in the relegation zone, and I think every other team in the Premier League is on a different level to the 7 of them here. So I could swap this about. Do I want to swap them about? I think Forest will do okay. I think Everton will do okay. No, I'm not going to swap that about. I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to go for Everton over Forest though. Do I want to go for Forest over Brentford? I'm actually pretty set on Wolves. That's going to be my rogue relegation pick for the season. I'm going to keep Wolves there, I think. Brentford will keep there. Forest will keep there. I think Forest have made some good signings. I think Forest could do okay. In fact, I'm going to put Forest above Everton. So Forest are finishing 13th in the league this year. Other than that, this is where we're starting to get into the difficult ones, because I feel like all of these teams have spent pretty nicely. And yeah, I can see them. I'm going to put Fulham in there. They've got a decent team, but they've recently lost João Palhinha. Now, if you look back at the stats from last season, Fulham were terrible when Palhinha wasn't playing, so the fact that they've not replaced him yet, I'm gonna put them down. It's not even a struggling season; they're still finishing in 12th, so that's still a decent one. Then I'll go for Bournemouth as well. I think Bournemouth will finish above Fulham. Bournemouth to finish 11th, and I think I'll stick with that because they've obviously just lost Solanke, who was their biggest player, and in terms of like replacements for him, I've not really seen too much. I think Nketiah could potentially be on the list, but Bournemouth will probably pull someone from like the French league and they'll end up doing okay. So we'll go for Bournemouth to finish 11th. Plus, I really rate the manager. I think it's Iraola that it's pronounced. So I think they could do okay. Now 10th place. This is where it starts to get a little bit trickier. I'm gonna go for Crystal Palace. Now I really rate Palace. Is this 9th place? No, this is 10th place. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, I need another team in here. There we go. So Fulham will finish 13th. Brentford will finish. Bournemouth will finish 12th. Palace 11th. Now, I do really rate Palace. They were fantastic at the end of last season, but they could potentially lose Eze before the end of the window. They've already lost Elise, and then obviously Mateta was fantastic towards the end of last season as well. I think the fact that they're losing Elise and look as though they could potentially be losing Gahey as well, and even Anderson for Fulham, they could be in a bit of a pickle. So I think they will finish in whatever position this is. I don't know if that's 11th or 10th or whatever anymore. After that, it's West Ham, Brighton, or Villa. I think I'm going to go for Brighton. I don't think they'll do as well this year. I don't know. Like, the manager seems like a decent enough manager, but he's came from the second Bundesliga division. Obviously, it's the team that got promoted, but I don't really know too much about them. And I think with the quality and a lot of the other players, even though Brighton have went and spent about 200 million this summer, I don't think it's going to be enough to kind of push them towards the European places. So I'm sticking Brighton in at 9th or 10th. Can't even remember. Then I'm going to stick West Ham. I think West Ham have made some really good signings this year, and I think they'll do quite well. Even though I don't understand the point in replacing David Moyes to go for a manager who plays the exact same way in Lopetegui, but they have made some really nice signings. I'm expecting Fulkrug to do really well this year. Wan-Bissaka is going to get some game time. Who else have they signed? Guido Rodriguez. They've signed a good centre back as well, and I can't remember who it is. But yeah, I think they'll do well. And Somerville, I think they'll do enough to at least finish in the top 10. And we're going to go for 9th, I think that is. So that's leaving me with 8 teams left. Yeah, so that's right. Then I'm going to go for Aston Villa to finish in 8th. Obviously, they finished in 4th last year, picking up Champions League football, and I think it is going to kind of it's going to affect them a little bit more this season. They don't exactly have the best depth in the world. They do have some decent depth. You know, you're looking at their left back positions and stuff like that. Like, they do have some depth in some positions. So I don't think they'll do terribly, which is why I've still got them in 8th. But I don't think they're going to do as well as they did last season. But I really like Villa, and I think they've got a great team. I just don't think they're going to finish that highly this year. And 7th, I'm going to go for Chelsea. Again, I don't see if Chelsea had kept hold of Pochettino, then I would be putting them a lot higher on this list. But the fact they've sacked Pochettino and went for, again, a championship manager who has had, I believe, maybe 1 year in management, because he was or maybe 2 years in management. I'm not really feeling too great about them. And again, a huge amount of players which haven't really gelled until the end of last season when Pochettino got the best out of them and then they sacked him. So I'll go for 7th place for Chelsea. After Chelsea, I'm thinking between Man United and Newcastle. Now, it's just, I think it's going to be these guys. It's just what position do we put them in? I think I'm going to go for that. I think I'll go for Newcastle in 5th. And then we'll go for Man United in 6th. Now, Man United play Fulham tomorrow, and it's one of those games where I think that could end up being like a draw. And again, we've got Fulham finishing down in 13th, so I don't know how good Man United are going to be this season. They're kind of making all these big name signings, you know, like De Ligt, Xerxes and all this, but I don't know if any of them are really going to make too much of a difference. I don't think any of them are really game changers. And I think there's a lot more going on at Man United than what a couple of big transfers can make. So I'll go for Man United in 6th. And then Newcastle. I think they'll get Tonali back. I think Isak will be fantastic this year. I just think Newcastle will do pretty well and they'll get back to some winning ways. In fourth place, this could be a bit controversial. I'm going to put Liverpool. Now, I actually think this will be really close between Liverpool and Newcastle. And I would actually be tempted to put Newcastle in fourth and put Liverpool in fifth, which could be mental, but I think I'm going to stick with that. Liverpool still have some really nice quality. But I don't think they've signed a single player yet this summer under a brand new manager. But I'll keep them there. I'll keep them in fourth. I think they just trump Newcastle. And we'll go for that. Now, third place, I'm going to go for Tottenham Hotspur. I think this is going to be a fantastic season for Spurs. Now, hear me out. I think Ange is going to be cooking this season. I think it's going to be a really, really good season. They've made a good few transfers, some really good quality in a lot of players, a lot of places. And I think Solanke is going to get a ton of goals this year. Son's back in his good position and at left wing. And I just think it's going to be good. I think Spurs are getting third place, and I think they're not going to be like challenging for the title, but I think they will be up there. I think Spurs will be clear of Liverpool in fourth place, if that makes sense, but they're not going to be proper title contenders. And then we're down to Manchester City and Arsenal. Now, this is do you know what? I'm going to put Arsenal to win the league. I think this is the year. I think this is the year that it finally happens. I don't know what's going to happen with Man City. Obviously, they're getting their heat in for the financial fair play 115 charges this year. Whether that actually takes into effect of anything, I'm not too sure. I think this is Pep's last year as well, so that probably favours Man City being champions more than anything. Alvarez has just left. They've signed Savinho. I don't know if he's going to be too great. I don't really know too much about him. But again, De Bruyne's getting old. There was talks about him leaving in the summer. I can't see City being the absolute powerhouse that they have usually been. Walker's getting old. I think he's going to be a big scapegoat in the team this year. So I think that's what we're going to go for. I think we're going to go for Arsenal to win the league. Arsenal again have made fantastic signings. We've got Calafiori in there. Who else have they signed? Is that it? Potentially getting Marino. But at the end of the day, I don't think they actually needed too many signings because their squad was fantastic. And I think this is the year that it finally happens for them. And Arsenal are going to win the league. So that is my Premier League predictions. You can see them on screen right now. We'll come back to this next year. And we are going to have cooked. We're going to have all 20 correct. And we're going to be celebrating. So let me know your Premier League predictions down in the comments. Make sure to roast me if you think any of this is absolutely ludicrous. And yeah, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.